Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Goin Digital Show, the podcast for K-12 school leaders. I'm your host, Greg Goins, and welcome to episode number 4. Tonight, we're talking about the Bright Futures program, an incredible program, community outreach program that originated in Joplin, Missouri, and we have a fantastic panel of guests tonight that are going to tell you all about that program and how you can start Bright Futures right there in your own school district. So, welcome to our guest tonight. We have CJ Huff, we have Melissa Winston, and we have Rick Neal. And Rick is a school superintendent in Arkansas. CJ is a retired superintendent in Joplin, Missouri. And Melissa is the coordinator for the Bright Futures program in the Joplin School District. So welcome to everyone tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So glad to have you. This is so exciting. And just to kind of lay the background for the Bright Futures program, I actually met the good folks from the Joplin, Missouri School District when I was attending the Future Ready Summit in St. Louis in the spring. I guess it was late April or mid-May, and I learned so much from those people from the Joplin School District, and I knew at that time if I ever had the chance I had to get you guys on and talk about all the great things happening in Joplin, Missouri, and particularly this Bright Futures program. So before we get into it, let's just kind of go around and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in education. And let's, ladies first, let's go with Melissa.
Okay, thank you. I have been with Joplin School District for the last 2 years, and I have a background. I'm actually a marriage and family therapist, and my background is in youth development work. I've always worked with families and with teens here in the Joplin area. That's really my heartbeat and my passion. And had the opportunity to actually be a part of the Bright Futures effort as a volunteer when it first started in 2005, which was just a lot of fun, or not 2005, 2010, excuse me, which was just a lot of fun. I'll never forget that very first volunteer breakfast. I'm sure Dr. Huff will share about that, but all the energy and just the synergy in our community was just really exciting, and so it's been fun to be a volunteer, and then to come in a couple years ago now as the coordinator has been a ton of fun. I've learned so much. Working in education is a whole new animal for me. These guys have lots of experience, and all of you have lots of experience as educators. And for me, I've always been working in the community, doing work, and then coming into the school as a guest. And so it's been fun to be on the inside and just see what the things that our teachers face and that our administrators face every day, and just to get to be a support to them. It's been really great. I'm married, my husband, 14 years, and we have 2 little guys who are 8 and 9, Malachi and Isaiah, and they keep us crazy. We play lots of Legos. So that's me.
All right, very good. All right, let's go to Rick Neal in Arkansas.
Thank you, Dr. Goins, and it's a pleasure being here this evening. I am a 32-year veteran teacher. I've been administrator for over 17 years now. I'm going into my 4th year superintendency in a great school district just in northwest Arkansas, just right outside of the Bentonville-Rogers location, about an hour from Joplin, from Dr. Huff and Melissa. My background is I'm again a former coach and teacher and all that time. I've got a beautiful wife of 30 years and 2 grown young men at 26 and 29, and very proud of their accomplishments in life as well. So very excited about being here tonight and then really to talk a little bit about Bright Futures. All right, great.
Let's go to Dr. Huff. Tell us about yourself, CJ.
Okay, my background, I've been in education 19 years, and I started out as an elementary teacher, elementary principal, and then ultimately superintendent, where I spent the last 11 years as superintendent of schools, the last 7 here in Joplin, Missouri. Have my doctorate from the University of Arkansas. I'm married, have 3 children, ages 15, 13, and 6, and so I'm going to be very busy this fall with a lot of activities with the kids and being involved with them. Recently retired and enjoying time catching up with the family. We had our disaster in Joplin back 4 years ago, and it's been quite a long haul, and so getting a chance to take a step back and catch my breath and spend some time with family has been good for me. So I'm excited to be here this evening and share the work we've got going on.
Well, again, thank you so much for being here, and I really can't wait to dive in and talk about this very special program. Before we get started, there are a couple different ways you can connect with the show tonight. You can always ask questions or comment or participate through Twitter. Just use the EduLive hashtag. We also have a new chat box feature on the TeachCal website tonight, so if you want to interact with myself or any of our guests, we'd love to hear from you. So I guess we need to start at the very beginning and talk about what the Bright Futures program actually is, and in doing some research on my own and talking to the good people from Joplin, CJ, this began with a problem, did it not?
Yeah, we really started focusing in on the graduation rate about 2008. When I arrived in Joplin, we went through a strategic planning process that fall. There were a number of action plans that were developed around improving graduation rate. Specifically, there were 3 action plans within the graduation rate strategy that involved engaging our human service agencies, our business community, and our faith-based community, and it's talked specifically about tapping into their time, talent, and treasure in unique ways to provide the supports we need to support these kids that are struggling in school. And so just a little more background, you go back to 1996 in Joplin, we had a 54% graduation rate, so we were losing about 1 out of every 2 kids back in 96. So when I arrived in 2008, they made some good gains. We were up to about 72%. We're having a hard time getting above that 75% mark, and 80% seemed like a long ways off. And so we started the work of engaging the community through the Bright Futures framework, and the framework kind of evolved over time. We really didn't know. All we knew is we had 3 action plans that we had to implement per the strategic plan that was board approved, and I think was I believe it was in the January of 2010, we hired Kim Van as a community development coordinator to implement those plans, and we were able to get grant funding through the Economic Security Corporation of Southwest Missouri. Started the work of community building and engaging people in conversations around kids. We had a kickoff breakfast on April 8th of 2010 where we brought together about 150 people in the community. There were decision makers that came to us and had the opportunity to listen to the stories of our kids. And I think it was really eye-opening for our community because they didn't even realize to a great degree what was going on inside of not inside our school so much as what was happening with our kids in the community and how the culture of our community had changed over time. And so re-engaging them in that conversation, we were able to tap into about 45 to 50 people from that event that were interested in being a part of this effort. And again, we still didn't know what it was going to look like, but over the course of time, without getting into a lot of detail, we developed this framework, the Bright Futures framework, which consists of basically three pieces. The first piece is meeting any child's basic needs within a 24-hour period, and we've created a 3-tiered system of support to make that work. The first tier is we always go out to our human service agencies first, and those agencies that already have a mission around meeting families and children's needs, and we've done a much better job through the communication, and that's a big part of what Melissa does, and communicating with those agencies and making sure that that communication is happening. We're able to get resources quickly to the families and the children that need those resources. The second part, so the first part is meeting any child's basic needs within 24 hours. The second piece is about building leadership capacity in the community. We do that in several different ways through the engagement of our advisory board, as well as we have a Bright Futures Council at each school. We also have a leadership academy that we put members of the community through. That Melissa leads, that we bring experts in various aspects of school and education related issues and at-risk issues to the table to visit with folks, and we usually have 15 to 25 people that go through that program once a year, and they get a heavy dose of Ruby Payne's framework for understanding poverty. They get some exposure to Eric Jensen's work around brain development and the impact of poverty on brain development. They get a chance to go on a tour of the community on a school bus. It's emceed by a police officer. It gives them some really interesting insight in different parts of our community that they haven't been in a long time. They get in front of juvenile officers and judges. We put together a panel of at-risk students so they get a chance to hear from them firsthand. And so we really deeply entrench a lot of people into the work and the challenges that we have going on inside of our school community, which is not unlike other communities across the country. I think this year was the first year that it was recognized that I think I saw something this past spring that over 50% of our children come from poverty now in this country, and I think that's been a big factor in the work we have going on, and realizing that like adults we have basic needs that we have to have met in order for us to be successful at work. our children have basic needs that they have to have met in order to be successful at school. So that's one piece of it. The building leadership capacity is really important. It grows leaders in the community and helps people understand what's going on inside our schools so they can work with us and problem solve together. And the third piece, so the first two pieces, again, meeting any child's basic needs within 24 hours. Second piece is about building leadership capacity in the community. And the third component of Bright Futures, which I think has a tremendous amount of power, is this idea of service learning and teaching kids and growing kids with the mindset of giving back and doing that in a curriculum-based type of way, which brings a lot of relevancy to the classroom and gives teachers an opportunity to get engaged in the community, give children an opportunity to give back, and it just sheds a whole new light on the work that what our kids are capable of and the work of our teachers. So it's really opening up the doors both ways. It gets people into the community, gets our faculty, staff, and students out into the community, and gets our community in the schools, gets our people internally out in the community, and we have a lot of great dialogue around that.
Great. And Melissa, I want to bring you in at this point. And Dr. Huff, I love the fact that you referenced Ruby Payne and talked about poverty. And obviously, there's so much more than just the graduation rate issue at the time you created this program. But Melissa, tell us a little bit about the demographics of the Joplin School District. And if it's like my school district, there is high rates of poverty, high unemployment, and a lot of challenges for kids. So tell us about Joplin's demographics.
Yeah, I think Joplin is a lot like you mentioned. I think our current free and reduced lunch rate throughout the district is somewhere in the 64% range. I haven't looked at it real recently, with our highest school being in the low 90 percentile. I think 92% or so last time I looked at it. So we have a wide range in the district. We have some schools that it's much lower and some where it's much higher, but certainly the need is great. I actually just did, we are getting ready to roll out snack packs for the year, which is our weekend backpack program, and we'll probably talk more about that later, but this year we did it a little bit differently, and we asked for some different demographic information from families with regard to food security, and we found that last year we served 350 kids, and they were 350 that we had identified that we thought pretty sure that these are families that could use some supports. And so this year we went with what the USDA has recommended that we do for backpack programs, and we gave the application to every kid in the district and sent it home with every family and invited anyone who felt they had a need to apply. And on it, there's a rating system, a survey that they can take to see if they rate for food security or for food insecurity, excuse me, and we've already had 444 qualify as food insecure in Joplin schools in the last week. So I think of our school district, we have, 7,600 kids or something like that, a little below 8,000, and of that so far, just in our elementary demographic, 444 rate as food insecure. So we have a lot of needs. I think we served over 500 kids with different student needs last year, whether that be shoes, backpacks, clothes, whatever it is. So lots of need, and it's like in any community. Certainly there are human service groups that are doing great work, but there's always gaps. And then when it's adults, it's one thing, but man, when it's kiddos who have absolutely no control and they're just trying to survive every day and get to school and get through it, we just decided that wasn't okay. We weren't okay with gaps with our kids, and so that's kind of what I often describe the work that we do as gap coverage. We come together to draw everyone together and make sure that those kids don't fall through the cracks. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I mean, we have so many kids that are in need, and we have to develop different types of programs in which we can kind of bridge that gap and help them be successful. Rick, I want to bring you in. Tell me a little bit more about your school district in Arkansas, and then I want all three of you to try to help me answer this question. But what is the biggest obstacle that children in poverty face when it comes to the school experience?
Well, I think I guess my school in Arkansas, we're about a little under 2,000 students right now. We're a growing school district, and we're about 50% poverty. In my conversations with Dr. Huff when we first started visiting about this, it kind of came secondary to the reason I started speaking to him. But in my conversation with him, his was graduation rates, and mine didn't hit that kind of button. It hit more along the lines of I was an old high school principal. I dealt with so many situations during the day that I couldn't deal with. I couldn't help in meeting some of the needs that either the counselor or the teacher or the food service director was bringing to me. I had no resource. I had no anything. And so when I became superintendent and I started visiting with Dr. Huff about my issues and some of my issues, my concerns that I was trying to have, I think that is the reason why it resonated so well with my district. Number one, we're right outside, we're a bedroom community of Bentonville and Rogers. You know, we're a little more rural. We're not as connected in that type of structure. So we had some poverty issues on the outside that impacted us significantly, that we're trying to help and trying to, you know, nurture a little bit along as we could too. So, you know, that is the reason why I think that the direction, because like I said, it resonated with me of how I could help in more of a capacity than just me or my teachers or think people fitting in. So I think that kind of answers your question there.
Yeah, great. Melissa, can you speak to the poverty question?
How does it impact kids?
Yeah.
Well, from a therapist standpoint, you know, I think if you look at the brain research, it's really critical to acknowledge that these kids are living out of their amygdala all the time, which means they're living in fight or flight every second of the day. If you don't know where your needs are going to be met, you don't know if you're going to have a safe place to go home to tonight, you know, all those basic things. You're living in self-preserve all the time. You're just survive today, just get through the day. And so when that happens, that higher order function, that frontal lobe of your brain is just checked out entirely. It's not even functioning. So those kids aren't able to engage at the level that they need to. When they come to school, they're just what do I do to get through the day? What do I do to survive? What do I do so the teacher likes me? You know, how do I get people to be interested in me? And so it becomes very focused on feeling better, on feeling okay. It's not at all focused on achieving or getting to my best place or even following directions in class. The behavior, often the negative behaviors that you see from those kiddos, those are ways that they have learned work for them to get the attention they're desperate for. And so I think if we can address those needs like you talked about, then we can get out of that. We can get out of the amygdala. We can get out of that lower functioning brain operation and then go into the higher functioning brain operation of the frontal lobe and say, man, I can now reason and I can think and I can focus and I can listen and I can feel safe and I can trust that what you say to me is not trying to hurt me, that you're a safe person and I can let my guard down and learn something today. And I think often in education and culturally all across the board, not just in education, people don't realize they often feel that we need to take a very disciplinarian response to these kids. You know, if we just, you know, we need to, you know, kind of beat it out of them. And I obviously say that, not literally, but often that reinforces that injury for those kids and that lack of safety in school. And so we're going to have to come down to their level, love them where they're at, meet their needs, help them to see that school is safe and that they can let their guard down and really learn something today. And so that meeting those immediate needs, those basic needs that every person has is really the only way to get those kids to engage in school.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That was very well said. And CJ, to circle back to you, I mean, throughout your long career as a school district superintendent, I mean, how much time and emphasis was put on dealing with some of these issues with poverty and trying to, you know, really put your kids on a more balanced playing field?
You know, I think that's a really great question, and I think like most educators across this country, I was just spending some time, I still spend a lot of time with educators even in my retired life, and you hear the stories, still hear the stories about educators who are struggling to, they see more and more kids coming with more and more needs, not only basic needs, mental health needs and supports, and are lacking in so many ways. And that's a very scary thing because we know as educators, and I don't know that politicians always get this, but as the kids come to us that are more and more needy, it requires more and more resources, more and more time to support these children. And until such point, we get, as a society, as a nation, we come to realization that that our kids are really important. They are our future, and until we really bear down on this thought that as adults we have a responsibility to meet these kids' basic needs, I think we're going to continue to struggle as a nation. Our educators are going to continue to struggle. So in my career, going back to your question, I saw that as a classroom teacher in my first year, very eye-opening. I grew up on a farm. We didn't have a lot growing up, and I thought I knew what poverty was, but whenever you get into the school business, and all of a sudden you realize a lot of these families don't. I had a 2-parent household. I had food on the table every night, even though we didn't have a lot. My parents took good care of me. My grandparents, aunts and uncles, we all watched out for each other. And as it stands for our kids today, so many of them are coming from some really distressing circumstances. And that was one of the things that we found out, because there was a perception in Joplin. And I think it's not just in Joplin; it's everywhere. That in many cases, the graduation rate issue, kids not staying in school, not doing well in school, behavioral expectations, the behavior of kids, kids not performing at high levels. They see that as a school problem more so than as a community cultural problem. And what we found when we started talking to kids, we spent a tremendous amount of time in focus groups working with these students, trying to get a sense of what was really going on. And what we found out in talking to all these students, kids that dropped out of school and had come back, kids were thinking about dropping school, all these different demographics of dropouts. It wasn't the school that was pushing them away. It was what was happening outside in their personal lives and all the chaos in their social life that was happening, whether it's bullying or family issues or drug and alcohol abuse, whatever the issue may be. There was a lot of chaos in those kids' lives, and once we came to the realization what the real problem was, what we've been able to do in Joplin, what Rick has seen and some of the other superintendents has seen, is communities stepping up and filling that gap that Melissa talked about earlier, and putting good people in the lives of these kids and showing them how to get from point A to point B. Because so many of these kids don't even, they're first generation high school graduates, let alone thinking about college isn't even a dream that they can have. And I think when you talk about the idea of what is it that is the biggest obstacle for children in poverty, I think in many cases it's just a lack of hope and a lack of ability to dream big dreams because of the lack of resources and the lack of adult guidance in their lives to help them get from point A to point B. So I see educators, teachers, principals, counselors, the community as a whole. It's our responsibility to step up and fill that gap and show the way for those kids so that they know how to get there. And it doesn't necessarily mean in every case that they're coming from bad families. I'm not saying that. But in many cases, though, those families do need support and they do need guidance. It's just for even poverty families that and I think everybody loves their kids, but they struggle with they've not been there, they've not walked that path, and they need role models. Parents need role models too, and people that are non-threatening that can come in and put their arms around them and say, hey, we can help you here.
Can I?
Yeah,
jump on in, Dr. Goins?
Sure.
I think that what CJ has done here, and the message that this is really spinning out to be, is that what happens here is that this program and what it is doing for our community is it puts some building blocks in place that community members knew that was out there. They knew that was there, but they did not know how to help. They've never understood how to get involved. Nobody has asked them to get involved. Nobody has told them they need to get involved. And what this has done for our community, it's brought this brand inside that district that CJ's brought those three pieces together. And what it has done is it's created this real neat package of people knowing. People know that they can help. They know where to go. They know where those pieces all fit in place now, where it's not so spread out. And that's what is systemic about this. It's organic. It has a lot of messages that it's okay to ask for help, but it's good for me to give back as well. So there's pieces in here that we really need to be talking about, that it's a lot more than maybe just a program. Sometimes it's all boxed together. It has a lot of significant educational pieces to it that brings your community together as one instead of just a mass of different things. A lot of communities do a lot of great things, and they always will. But Bright Futures has a significant role in a school community environment, and that's what's big about this program.
Okay, so look, that's great, Rick. I'm glad you brought that up. And there are a lot of layers to the program, from what I understand. But I know the community outreach is instrumental in any success that you have. So, Dr. Huff, kind of take me back to when this program started. Did you reach out to your business community? Did you have a town-wide meeting? How did you introduce this to your community?
We introduced it initially. Just we had that kickoff breakfast, and just the concept of the community getting involved was one piece of it. But I think Rick nailed it when he said it's organic. I really didn't have to do a lot of sales. I didn't have to do a sales job out in the community on this thing. Once people understood the need, they were there to help. The question was how? How can I help? And so we started creating ways that they could get involved and engaged, and we talk about tapping into the unique time, talent, and treasure of our community. And I think one of the things that I don't want to confuse that this is not a canned package. I mean, it doesn't. What Bright Futures looks like in Joplin, Missouri, doesn't look like what it looks like in Pea Ridge, Arkansas, and it may not look like what it looks like in Harrisonville, Missouri, and the other 37 communities that are a part of this effort. I liken it to more like a Christmas tree. Everybody has a Christmas tree, and you pull it out of the attic every year, and that's kind of your framework. And you hang the ornaments on it that are unique to your family. And like Bright Futures, they hang the ornaments on it that are unique to the community. And so the resources that they have that are available within that community, the needs that they have in that community that are unique, and how you address those needs is really what makes Bright Futures special, and gives the opportunity for everybody to be a part of it and make an impact. And we've seen some tremendous results here on a lot of levels, from teachers getting the things they need in the classroom that they wouldn't have been able to get otherwise, to students getting obviously what they need that they wouldn't have had otherwise, as well as some tremendous leadership going on in this community, and growing up next generation of school board members, which is really important. People that understand and get it. That's a really important part of this. We're seeing more and more people running for school board that have been a part of this effort, and it's really done some great things for kids and the community as a whole, and engaged them in a conversation that needed to happen a long time ago.
And Melissa, I want to come back to you as the day-to-day coordinator of the program in the Joplin School District. What's a typical day look like for you, or maybe a typical week? And I know I've tried to do my research on the program, and I know you put a lot of feelers out on social media, which I think is great. So if there's an immediate need, talk about the response time and talk about what a typical day would look like for you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. A typical day. I don't know if there's a typical day. Every day is unique. Certainly, it'd be hard to capture it what's typical, but my job, I do a little bit of everything, from marketing to case management to lots of meetings here in the school. I think the biggest thing that I really try to focus on is how do we make sure our kids are taken care of, and so that's always top priority. Anytime we have a whole web-based system where if there's a need in the district, the teacher or the principal or whoever can submit that need via a web-based form, and it comes right in, and someone from my team receives that depending on kind of what it is. If it's certain things, it comes to me. If it's other things, it goes to Dale, my assistant, and we respond to those immediately. We have what we call Darla's Room. It's a donation center. It's just a small, used to be huge after the tornado, but we have a little bit of a smaller space now, filled with clothes and shoes and coats and some of those basics that we need to have on hand all the time. And so we'll try to utilize those resources first, and then if we don't have what we need, then we'll put it out on social media. We found that with the new algorithms on Facebook, it's a little harder to get some traction when there are needs, as when we first started using Facebook, you'd post something and, man, what was the time limit, Dr. Huff, 14 minutes or 12 minutes or something? Yeah, was the longest we ever waited for a need to be met. Now we've started using a texting group as well, and that's been helpful. And really every need is just met. Sometimes if it's a real emergent, we'll run and go buy something if we need to, and then kind of restock with donations that come in. But it's just been a real sweet partnership between everyone, and it's cool. I love the way that they always say, Dr. Huff has said this over and over, it's really about everyone giving what they can, their time, talent, treasure, and sometimes you've got a couple of pairs of shoes in the closet that you can give, and sometimes you don't, and so, or if you got a little extra money, you can go shop, and so you do, and sometimes you don't, and so it's just everyone working together, and it's fun in our little texting group. If I send something out, You can see the people kind of going back and forth on their texting, going, oh man, I don't have time to get to the store, and the other one says, oh, I do, I'll go, and they're kind of going back and forth, and like I said, it's just very organic. So I spend most of my time dealing with that, making plans. We run a lot of various programs and things to try and help address the graduation rate, Operation College Bound, and Reading Matters, and a few other things. And so I do a lot of the legwork in that, and some of the background administrative stuff of planning and the finances and all that. So there's a little bit of everything on my plate during a day.
Very good. And Rick, I want to bring you in again. How does your program look different in Arkansas than it would, say, in Joplin, Missouri? And what are some similarities and what are some differences?
Well, I have to say there's a lot of similarities, because there's not anything that Dr. Huff hasn't done I haven't stole. I think that when I took our leadership and our advisory team to Joplin and went through the training through that process and went through all that, I think that everything that Joplin was doing and everything they were doing to meeting the needs of kids, my group wanted to take home and bring back into Pea Ridge. Now, what it's done, and I hate you keep using the same word, but it is organic, because people across the Bright Futures affiliation come up with different thoughts and ideas of how to create the energy to meet the needs of certain students, whether it may be like what our group does is prom dresses. We have a big prom dress drive for kids at the beginning of prom season, where we have over probably 25 to 30 kids last year, girls, that were able to have prom dresses, something that nobody's ever had. But that is a very a sensitive issue with some of our young ladies at that point in time of their life, when they can't afford a prom dress and different things like that at that time of the year. And our community and our previous kids that have come to school in our district brought all their prom dresses up here and allowed them to, everybody had a prom dress, and that's huge. And that last year every kid in Pea Ridge had Christmas, and every kid had the first day of school, had their backpacks and their school supplies. Every kid had to do that, and the beauty of it is that I sat here and got the chance, the opportunity to watch all that go on and applaud what was going on. And what was happening around me was provided by our school and community, and that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Melissa, jumping back to you, I mean, this is such a, I can say this as a superintendent, and I don't think I'll get in too much trouble, but we're really good at identifying problems, but we're not always great at coming up with viable solutions. And that's what I love about this program, and I hate to call it a program, but it does have a program feel to it, in the fact that there's structure and you have a certain way that you want to go about providing services. But what role would a building principal have in a program like this in a school district?
Well, a couple of different things. Our building principals work together with the teachers to make sure that those student needs are met. So if a teacher identifies a student that needs, shoes, we have two kind of classifications. We have the immediate student needs, which are going to be your clothing, shoes, school supplies, coats, food, those sorts of things are immediate student needs. And anybody in the district that identifies those needs can submit a request, no questions asked, we meet the need. Now, if there are more needs, things like, they need help with utilities, they need some case management, they need, other more advanced things, then the principal is going to get involved with the counselor, and there's going to be a group of us that start to have a conversation about how do we connect them to the right resources in the community, what gaps are there that Bright Futures can fill. So the principal is really involved in that conversation, because obviously there's a relationship between the principal and the family, and it's a different thing. It's one thing for a family to walk into a human service agency and say, hey, I need help with my utility bill. It's another discussion entirely to have that conversation with your building principal that you're going to have to see for several years. There's some accountability there. There's an opportunity to really influence the life of that family, where you can walk into a human service agency and you can walk out and never come back. And there's no accountability. There's no ongoing relationship unless that individual wants it. In the school setting, unless they move out of the district or move to another building, there's an ongoing face FaceTime conversation that's happening between that principal and that family. And so it just really creates an opportunity to influence and to speak life into that family and to make school a safe place again. So I would say that the posture of the principal in that relationship is really critical. So that'd be the first thing I'd say. And then the second thing the principal really has a huge responsibility to do is take good care of their partners. And in that, we have Bright Futures partners that are around every school building in the district. Human service partners, business partners, and faith-based partners, and those folks are meeting there in each of the buildings once a month or once a quarter, depending upon the building. And we really, really try to challenge our principals to keep those people well taken care of. We want their time, talent, and treasure to be utilized to their fullest. We want them to be in our buildings, loving on our kids, making a difference. And so there's a little marketing in that, you know what I mean? That relationship is the key, I think, for the success, is that principal has to really invest, not just meet with that partner and say, what can you do for us, but how do we have a relationship so that we're benefiting your business, we're, and you're helping support our school. And so we see principals and businesses doing really cool things together where they're, you've got kids going and serving at events that businesses are having, or they're coloring pictures to hang up around the bank or whatever it is, and it becomes a real two-way relationship between the school and the partner. And so that principal has a big responsibility to take good care of those people.
We had one of my favorite stories related to students giving back to a partner. I think it was one of our two major health systems. I can't remember if it was Freeman or Mercy, but we had students that made get well cards for their patients, and just as a give back to the hospital that serves on their council and supports them. And I also want to provide some clarity too around this idea. When we talk about time and talent, I think people they pretty much get what that is. Treasure is something that's we look at very differently in Joplin. It's not about cash donations. We're not asking for money all the time. It's the pair of shoes in somebody's closet. It's half a bag of infant diapers that a pregnant teen mom needs to get her through the weekend. I mean, it's all those things that we all have that may end up in a yard sale or may just collect dust for years and get thrown away that may be of value to somebody else. And so connecting those types of resources too. But one of my favorite stories is related to that. We had a group of students. I went to Emerson Elementary School. This is prior to the tornado in January of 2011, and walked into the gymnasium, and the Community Foundation of the Ozarks was there to deliver a check. And it was for their snack pack program, their weekend backpack program at Emerson Elementary School. And again, that's a school with about 93. This is prior to tornado, 93% free and reduced lunch rate. About 26% of the parents there were either had been or were currently incarcerated, and a lot of diversity in that particular school. And when I walked in, the thing that I noticed was every single one of those kids had a hand-knitted stocking cap on their head. That's not something you see every day, and certainly. And so I asked the parent next to me what was up with the stocking caps. And she pointed to a couple of elderly ladies that were up the front of the gymnasium and ready for this assembly to start. And she said those two ladies serve on the Bright Futures Council at that particular school. And that previous Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving time, that council got together and were discussing the needs of those particular kids. And of course, with the poverty kids, you go into the winter months, you're talking hats, coats, and gloves, and so on. Well, those two ladies took it upon themselves to hand knit 230 stocking caps for those kids between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and some of the kids even had scarves. And they had the time, they had the talent, which is their ability to knit, and the treasure was the yarn that was in their closet. And when they ran out of yarn, they found additional treasure amongst friends and neighbors and businesses are willing to donate to that project. And the beauty of that was I had no idea. As a superintendent of the schools, as you know, that's public relations gold right there. I mean, that's a great project that you just want to shout from the mountaintops. But the TV stations that were there that day, they were there to cover the check presentation. But the kids were there that day at that assembly, not only to say thank you for that check, but they were there to say thank you to those ladies that had done that. And it was something that school community identified as a need with their students, and they took it upon themselves to tackle that need on their own. And when we talk about the work of Bright Futures, that really exemplifies the work that's going on at the local level and the organic nature of it that Rick was alluding to earlier. it's all about the community stepping up and taking care of their own. And one of the major obstacles and conversations that we had early on, and a number of communities that started this have had these conversations too, that's very political in the sense that it makes it sound like we're enabling families of poverty. That's a very conservative mindset, and I'm a conservative myself, but I would tell you that that as a conservative, that this is truly an agenda of love thy neighbor, and getting back to that philosophy that we take care of ourselves, and we don't always have to rely on government support to support our families and support our community, and we can look internally and support one another as we should as good neighbors. And our kids are seeing that, and I've seen. I just had a story, just a quick one. The other day, I walked into a business here locally, ran into a lady, I didn't know her, and she thanked me for the work that we'd done with Bright Futures and what an impact that made on her and her family. And for the first time, in her life, as a result of the support that she'd been getting from the organization, she was able to buy her own school supplies for her kids. Because she was able to get a job, and she was able to get up on her feet again, and her kids, and their kids were so proud because her mom was able to do that for them. So, there's lots. I mean, we could tell stories. We could be on this radio show for hours telling stories about what's happened in Joplin alone, and I'm sure Rick could tell many, many stories about what's happened in Pea Ridge as well, that are just heartfelt communities that have come together to work together to make a difference in the lives of these kids and these families.
And I know that you have about 5 years of data now that the program has continued and you've had success. So it's not just something that on a year-to-year basis you're trying. I guess you're always trying to analyze and kind of reevaluate. But you have some good hard data that proves that this program works. Can you talk about that a little bit, Melissa?
Yes, actually, I'm going to let CJ talk about that for just a second. I'm going to go. He's the number guy. He has them all in his head. Let me go get my paperwork, and I'll get you some numbers. Okay, I'll be right back.
Well, I can talk quickly about graduation rate, which was the real reason we started the initiative to begin with. And our graduation rates increased from 72%. I think we hit a high of 86 or 87%. We went from a 72% 5-year graduation rate, cohort graduation rate, to a 4-year on-time graduation rate that runs around 85% now, which has been phenomenal. My first year there, we lost about 149 kids to dropouts, and I think this last year, class of 2015, we had 49. So we're graduating about 100 more kids than we used to. But I think more importantly, and I'm not going to sit here and say Bright Futures was the reason that happened. It was a catalyst behind a lot of the programs that were put in place. Programmatically, there were some things that happened that changed as a direct result of that, but those changes were able to occur because money's tight. I mean, it's a problem in every school in the country, and money's tight. And so, how do you start new programs? Well, the way we've done it at no cost to the school district. We've been able to, including the work that Melissa does. The district doesn't pay for that. The community steps up and fills that gap, and the programs, once we've identified a need and an area that we can focus on, the community steps up and supports that programmatically, both financially and manpower-wise, and we're able to accomplish some great things and keep kids in school. So, Bright Futures is kind of the backbone that makes a lot of these great things happen, but it in and of itself isn't the reason why we've seen that kind of improvement. But at the end of the day, I'll say this, and Tony Rossetti, he's a superintendent in Webb City. I think a lot of him, and he made a comment one time. He said, I don't really care if I see data results or not. At the end of the day, we're helping kids and we're doing good things for kids and families, and that's what matters most. We're supporting these kids and families, and what bad can come out of that.
Absolutely. And Melissa, how many states now have the Bright Futures program, and what kind of, are you still getting phone calls on a regular basis? How do I do this? How do I begin? Those type of calls?
Yes, I do get a lot of those calls, and thankfully Bright Futures USA is there to field them, and so people will call Joplin because they heard about us, and so we'll shunt them over to Kim and her team and Dr. Huff with Bright Futures USA to give them a little more direction. And what is it, 6 states?
7 states, 37 communities, about 200, we're pushing 200,000 students we're serving right now.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I went and grabbed some of my data, and I'll tell you that that's a big piece that we're working on next in the next year. We do have 5 years of data. Unfortunately, there was this little tornado that slowed us down and really spending a lot of time on that. So we've got some data that came out naturally, like graduation rates and things like that, but we're working to be able to pull from Infinite Campus, our student tracking system, be able to show, do we see an increase in attendance? Do we see an increase in behavior and grades, improvement in behavior and increase in grades? And those are, the big three. So those are the things we really want to see improvement in, and we're hopeful that by the end of the year we'll be able to show some of those actual statistics. But a few things that we have found in the last 5 years, obviously the graduation going up by close to 15% is pretty good news. We had, our mentors and tutors, we had that increase by 245%, up by 194 people, because we created some programs, some avenues for people to get involved. We saw our parent community involvement increase by 824% over that 5-year period, which is huge. We started closing the achievement gap between our students in poverty and those that are not. And as of the end of last year, attendance and graduation rates among our most at-risk students are at or above the level of their peers in 2014. So that gap is closing, so we're excited about that. One of our programs that we support called Fusion, which is a peer-to-peer mentoring program at the high school level. Obviously, one of the big things that impacts graduation rates is those critical transitions of elementary to middle school and middle school to high school. And so Fusion is one of the efforts that has been developed to respond to that. And in their work, just in the last year, they saw, in 2 years of programming, that they've seen a 42% increase in passing grades among freshmen and a 49.5% reduction in discipline referrals among freshmen. So that's where those kids really fall off the truck there as freshmen. And so now they have juniors and seniors that are investing in them, caring about them, loving on them, and helping to meet needs and fill in gaps for them. And we've seen an enormous improvement in our freshmen really sticking with it, getting engaged in school. One of the big challenges that they put out this year was they wanted every kid to try three different things there in the school, whether it be a club or a sport or a after-school thing, whatever it was. So they wanted people to kids to get involved, because obviously kids are involved or much more likely to graduate and be successful. So that program's just been wildly successful there at the high school, and it's really dramatically improved and enriched the just the culture of the school, where kids come in, they feel a part of the school. And that was a big challenge after being divided into 2 campuses for a couple of years. That was tough on the high school. And so this last year was the first year that everyone was back together. And so we're seeing that this year now, that people are just excited to come to high school, and they're motivated, and they've got all these people investing in them. So there's just been lots of results kind of in various places throughout the district, but those are a few. So.
Well, great data and great program. And if you're a school superintendent or a principal out there, or even some type of leader in your school district, you have to take a look at this Bright Futures program. It's really doing some incredible things in school districts throughout the country, and I'm so excited to share the story with everyone tonight. And Rick, as a superintendent myself, I mean, Melissa and CJ have convinced me that I need to start this in my school district. So if I'm going to call you and say, Rick, Neal, how do I get this thing started? Can you kind of walk me through it?
I think I could. I feel like that I've shared CJ's and the Joplin message across our area and across several parts of the state of Arkansas, and I feel like that, and I think that the biggest piece that CJ has instilled in me as a leader is the opportunity to give back. I think this is the biggest piece of giving back that he talks about that resonates with me, is that I have the opportunity to talk to other superintendents. I have the opportunity to talk to other school leaders. I've been in communities to ask me to come and speak about Bright Future. So absolutely, it's an opportunity for me to give back.
All right, great. So as we wrap it up tonight, let's just kind of go around one more time and tell us a little bit more as we close, where we can find you on maybe your website, social media, where we can get more information to get a program like this going in our school districts. So we'll start again with Melissa.
Well, you definitely are welcome to take a look at what we're doing in Joplin at brightfuturesjoplin.org. That tells a lot about what we're doing. You can see our 5-year annual report that has some of the data and the results that we've garnered in the last few years. You can also follow us on our Facebook page, and that's just facebook.com/brightfuturesjoplin. Certainly, we'd love to chat with you. And yeah, we're excited to share what's happening over in Joplin.
Great. Rick, tell us where we can find you and get more information.
We have the same, Bright Futures connect us all with a Facebook page and Bright Futures Pea Ridge, and also you can also go on the Pea Ridge District website, and our Bright Futures page is on there, and also you can email me here at school. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have, and spend as much time for anybody becoming a Bright Future school.
Great. And CJ, I know that you're retired now, but you're never going to retire as the spokesperson for the Bright Futures program. I know you're very proud of the program and very passionate about it. You just returned from Canada where you were speaking about it. So
yeah, I had a great visit with some folks up there, and talking a little bit about the recovery effort in Joplin and the impact Bright Futures had on kids, and well received. But as far as folks are wanting to learn more, if they're interested in getting engaged in this effort, and being a part of this Bright Futures network that we're creating, we have a website, brightfuturesusa.org, where you can seek more information. Kim Van is the coordinator of that effort, the director of that effort, and her email address is kim at brightfuturesusa.org, or you can email me at cj at cjhuff.com.
All right, just a great conversation tonight about a wonderful program. I want to thank our guests tonight, CJ Huff and Melissa Winston from the Joplin, Missouri School District, and also Rick Neal from the Pea Ridge School District in Arkansas. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope that all types of school leaders reach out to you and learn more and implement their own Bright Futures program in the very near future.
Well, thanks again for the opportunity. Enjoyed
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for being here. Okay, we want to take the next 10 minutes or so and talk about the TeachCow Network, and I've got my good friend Oscar Staten with us tonight, the founder of the TeachCow Network and also the host of Teachers Talk Live. How you doing, Oscar?
Dr. Goins, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. What a great show you guys have been having. I've watched some of it, and I've been in the middle of moving, so it's been crazy trying to set up my studio and everything, but I got it mostly situated, so I'm here, and I'm really congratulations on an amazing show. So,
well, thanks. And you also have some really neat things happening with your show that's going to air tomorrow night. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the new launch of Teachers Talk Live?
Yes, so Teachers Talk Live is now a podcast, and so I'm really excited about that. I've had the opportunity to make the show grow and sort of develop itself in the past 9 episodes that have aired before on teachcow.com. And so now we've launched it as a podcast, and now we have it on iTunes. And the show we're doing tomorrow is social media in schools. So we're going to talk about how can teachers best maximize social media in the classroom? What are the different social medias, and how can we get more teachers on it? Twitter's a big one. Twitter's a big one that we need to get more teachers on. There's so much expertise on there that we could use. So, Facebook, how can we maximize that? All those things. And then the one after that I'm really proud of, we're going to be talking about bullying. So I have some really amazing experts coming on to talk about that. So I'm really excited.
It's social media. It's just amazing how connected we all are. And you and I actually, Twitter, and you asked me to be a guest on, at that time it was Teacher Talk Live.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune of doing that with you a couple times, and just absolutely love it. But it seems like, there are more and more shows out there where teachers and educators can come to the net or get on iTunes and, find professional development in real time. I mean, it's really kind of a cool time to be in education, isn't it?
Exactly. It really is. And what I hear from guests on Teachers Talk Live is how they keep collaborating off the show. They make friendships on the show, and that's a really neat thing. The time we live in nowadays with the Twitter, with Facebook, with Pinterest, with all these different, with Periscope, even, the new thing, Periscope. All these things coming together. And I think we can really use them in the classroom and use them in education overall to collaborate and to learn from each other. So I'm really excited about to talk about social media. So it's going to be a really good show.
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers, our listeners, a little bit about the Teach Cal Network. How long has it been in existence, and what was really the driving force behind launching Teach Cal?
So I'm really, really proud of how far we've come with the Teach Cal Network. The whole idea behind it, Dr. Goins, was in the beginning for me was simply to get teachers talking, to get a conversation going about education. The idea that teachers can talk openly and freely without filter in a format that is safe for them, in a format that they themselves can direct as much as needed. What I really enjoy about my show is that I am the moderator, but I don't intend to take over the conversation and limit the conversation in any way. So these teachers, not only teachers, but experts of different kinds. That's the other thing about it, that we have people that have just begun teaching, to veterans and to superintendents like you, to every kind of educator that we could have. They're coming together as equals to have a frank conversation about education. And that's really where it began for me, to have that. And then, somewhere along the way, there was more interest, and you came along with this amazing idea of having this conversation on a superintendent level, which I absolutely love. I just think that's amazing. And you know what it does? It also, at least for me, it gives me, from a teacher perspective, it gives me a clearer view of where the challenges that superintendents face in leading, which is really neat that you're bringing that to the forefront. So the idea that, you came along and you were gracious enough to want to be part of the Teach Cal Network. And now we are growing in this way that now we have a perspective from teachers. Now we have a perspective from superintendents, the leaders. And then we're looking actually to adding to the network a parent perspective. And so we may introduce that tomorrow through Carrie Backham. We'll be talking more about that. But that's another thing that I'm looking forward to. So I want the Teach Cal Network to have a full rounded view of education. And that's what I love about it. But we need teacher participation. We need a lot more cooperation. We need more experts and more educators of all levels coming on the show. So we need support. We need audience support to make this grow. And I think it's an amazing endeavor that we're taking on, having these conversations live. And what's really neat about it, I think, is the face-to-face personal conversation that the panelists have. I think it's different. I don't know how you feel about it, being the host of your show, but it feels to me like there's more of a connection and more direct openness when you're face to face with these different people that you find throughout the country. So what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. And we're all connected through social media, and we have so many new opportunities. Quite frankly, I connect with superintendents all throughout the country. And,
right.
I'm a second generation superintendent. My father was a superintendent, and he had his network of friends and colleagues that he could call for advice. But I'm talking to superintendents in New Jersey, in Wisconsin, in California. And it's amazing to reach out and to help each other. And you and I have talked about this a little bit as well. There are so many great stories to be told.
Right.
And, like tonight, for instance, it was an accident that I learned about the Bright Futures program in Joplin. But what an incredible story. And I know there are more stories out there from a teacher perspective that you're going to find, and from a leadership perspective that hopefully I'm going to find. So it's really exciting. And I'm so thankful to be a part of the Teach Cal network. And you've helped me so much. And there's been a learning curve, and we've had some hiccups along the way. But really excited to be here and really thankful for the opportunity.
No, I think it's great. I mean, this show tonight that you did, exposing people to bright futures. I mean, that's amazing. That goes to the core of who I am as a teacher, because all my life I've been teaching low socioeconomic Hispanic students. And so I've seen all that you guys were talking about, and I'm thinking, wow, more resources. I wish more people knew about this stuff, And so your show is exposing that, and that's amazing. I love it.
So you are going to be on live tomorrow night talking about social media in schools, and we certainly want everyone to tune in. And school administrators, if you're out there, superintendents, principals, I mean, this is a big thing, and you need to hopefully watch tomorrow night and learn a little bit about what's happening with social media. And the Goin Digital Show will actually be back on Tuesday, September 15th, and we're going to talk about the maker movement. And again, I think teachers are pretty in tune with the maker movement, but there are still a lot of school leaders out there still don't know what the maker movement is. And we've got to find a way to get kids out of their seats, out of those straight rows of desks and classrooms, get them using their hands and creating things. And I think that's going to be a good show on the 15th. So what else can you tell us, Oscar, as we wrap it up tonight?
Yes, I wanted to go ahead and give the audience a little bit of a few requests, I guess, of ways they can connect to us and to Teachers Talk Live and to Going Digital. One is the podcast. Go on iTunes and subscribe to the podcast. That would be really helpful. And Going Digital will hopefully soon be launching as a podcast as well on iTunes. Then subscribe on YouTube to our channels. There is a newsletter as well that's on Teach Cal that you can subscribe to. There is a flyer that you can put up in the Teachers Lounge that tells people about, our shows, social media, connecting through social media, and most importantly is coming on these shows, coming and sharing expertise on these shows. So.
Yeah, and if you want to be a guest on Teachers Talk Live or on Goin Digital, just reach out and contact us. You can find us on Twitter. You can email us. You can go to the Teach Cal website. We're easy to find there. So we want to hear your story, and we definitely want you to be a part of our shows. So as we wrap up tonight, it's been great talking to you, Oscar.
Thank you.
The founder and creator of the Teach Cal Network, and try to give a little shout out to the school superintendents and principals out there. You have to tune in tomorrow night. You have to watch the Teach Cal Network at teachcal.com, and make this available in your teacher lounges. Let your teachers know, because it's such an incredible resource for all educators. So as we wrap up this show tonight, again, thank you to all of our wonderful guests tonight talking about the Bright Futures program. And for Oscar Staten, I'm Greg Goins, the host of the Goin Digital Show, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan.